Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, welcome to another video. Please hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, and hit the notification bell so you will be updated on all my future content. So this video is going to focus on fraction models, making different fraction models, visual models to represent some different fractions. So my first fraction here is 1/3. So I'm going to make a visual model that represents 1/3. I'm going to show how to do that for all of my viewers. So fractions represent a parts to whole relationship. The denominator, aka the bottom number in the fraction, represents the total amount of parts. So when you see denominator, I want you to think total. Denominator represents the total. Now the numerator represents the parts. So we have 1/3. So that means we have 3 total parts. So I'm going to make 3 total parts that are equal. I mean, my shapes aren't always drawn to scale, but 3 is our denominator, so 3 total parts, 3 equal parts. So I have 1, 2, 3 equal parts. In the numerator, which is 1, means that there's 1 part shaded. And we now have a fraction model to represent 1/3. Alright, next example. Shout out to everybody tuning in. Please hit the like button. It really helps the algorithm. One-fourth. Making a model that represents 1/4. So the denominator, aka the bottom number, represents the total. And the top number, aka the numerator, represents the parts, shaded or unshaded. So I have a total of 4 parts, so I'm going to make 4 equal parts within this shape. 1, 2, 3, 4. I now have 4 equal parts, and I'm going to shade in 1. I now have a fraction model that represents 1/4. Next example. Well, let's say I wanted a fraction model that represents 2/4. That would mean that I have a total of 4 parts, and 2 are either shaded or unshaded. So I don't even really need to erase this model. All I really need to do is shade in 1 more part. So I now have a fraction model that represents 2/4. I have 1, 2, 3, 4 total parts, and I have 1, 2 parts that are shaded. Now if I wanted to represent 3/4, simply shade in 1 more part. Now I have a fraction model that represents 3/4. I have 4 total parts, and 3 out of the 4 are shaded. Now let's say I wanted a fraction model that represents 6/8. That would mean that I need 8 total parts, and I would need 6 of them to be shaded. So if I draw a line across here, I now have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 total parts, and I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 out of those 8 that are shaded. So this would be a fraction model that represents 6/8. Alright, gonna keep going now. Moving on to fifths. So, if I wanted to make a fraction model that represented 1/5, I would need a shape or a fraction model that has 5 total parts, because the bottom number, the denominator, is the total. So I have 5 equal parts I got to make. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 equal parts, and one of those parts is shaded. So I now have a fraction model to represent 1/5. Now, if I wanted to represent 2/5, let's say I wanted to represent 2/5. That's going to be my next fraction model. I would simply shade in another part. Now I have 5 total parts, and 2 of the 5 parts are shaded. And I have a fraction model that represents 2/5. Moving on to the next example. Huge shout out to everybody tuning in. I appreciate you. Hit the like button. It really helps the algorithm. 3/7. Making a fraction model that represents 3/7. So that would mean I need 7 total parts. Now this might not be drawn exactly to scale, but the parts, they're supposed to be equal parts. So I'm going to try to make them as equal as possible. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 total parts, and 3 need to be shaded in to represent 3/7. So here we go. I'm going to shade in 1, 2, and I now have a fraction model that represents 3/7. I'm going to keep going with the examples. Shout out to everybody tuning in. Please hit the like button. It helps the algorithm. Now, if I wanted a fraction model to represent 6/14, that would mean that the fraction model has to have a total of 14 parts, and 6 need to be shaded. So what I can do here, if I simply draw a line across this fraction model, I now have 14 total parts. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. So 14 total parts, and then I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 that are shaded. So we now have a fraction model that represents 6/14. Alright, I'm going to keep doing fraction models till about the 10-minute mark. Shout out to everybody tuning in. I appreciate you. Remember to hit the like button. It helps the algorithm. Alright, 2/9. If I wanted to make a fraction model that represents 2/9, that would mean that I need 9 total parts, and 2 of those 9 parts need to be shaded. So I now have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 total parts. and I'm going to shade in 2 of those parts. And I now have a fraction model that represents 2/9. Alright, that is my video for today. Thank you so much for tuning in. Leave a comment. Let me know what you thought of the video. And if there is an area of math or reading that you're having difficulty with, put that in the comments and I will do a future video on that skill. Until next time, this is Mr. Camilleri signing off. Shout out to the person that just hit the like button. I appreciate you.